Hello, and welcome to Understanding the Indicator 6 Terminology, Preschool Environments. This online webinar is designed to provide special education administrators, preschool special education coordinators, and others responsible for oversight of early childhood special education programs, an overview of the reporting requirements related to preschool special education settings. Before we begin, let's discuss additional resources that can help you further understand Indicator 6 and the reporting requirements. These resources are Indicator 6 Decision Tree, Preschool Environments for Children Birth through 5 Instructions, and Preschool Environments for Children Birth through 5 Questions and Answers. Upon completion of this webinar, participants will define the terminology associated with Indicator 6, and identify resources for additional support. Before I discuss the terminology associated with Indicator 6, we need to be sure we have a common understanding of the different early childhood settings and the continuum of learning environments for preschool-aged children. People are sometimes confused by the concepts of a setting or environment versus a program. A setting is the generic category or type of place. The program is the placement, the actual place with a name and a specific curriculum, staffing, etc. Think about it in terms of deciding where to go out to eat. If you want to go out for Mexican food, that is a setting. Then you decide between two restaurants, which are the programs. When we hear the word setting, we frequently jump to placement or the program where the child will be going. As a part of developing the IEP team must first determine the location or setting where each special education and related service will be provided. The setting determination then drives the program placement. In the next slide, we will be going over the different types of settings as defined by the Office of Special Education Programs, or OSEP. It is important to understand the settings when reporting Indicator 6 data. OSEP defines different types of educational settings for children aged 3 through 5 and in preschool. The first category is regular early childhood program. The second category is a special education program, which includes a special education classroom, separate school, or residential facility. The third category is a caregiver's home. The fourth is a service provider location. These terms will be clearly defined in the upcoming slides. The setting referred to as regular early childhood program is defined as having at least 50% of children without IEPs. In other words, at least half the class will always be comprised of children who are not identified with a disability and in need of special education. Programs associated with this setting include, but are not limited to, programs in these categories: Virginia Preschool Initiative, or VPI, Head Start, reverse inclusion classrooms, preschool classes, both public and private, group child development center, or child care, and community-based play groups. For Indicator 6 purposes, the definitions of a regular early childhood program and a special education program are independent of any label put on the classroom itself for funding purposes, certification, or anything else. If a preschool classroom has 50% or more children without IEPs, it is considered a regular early childhood program. If a classroom has more than 50% children with IEPs, it is considered a special education classroom. It is also important to note this distinction is not best practice and is for the purpose of Indicator 6 reporting only. When determining the amount of time a child attends a regular early childhood environment, the total is to include both the hours per week the child is in a regular early childhood program placement as determined by the IEP team, and the hours per week that the parent has enrolled their child in a regular early childhood program. Additionally, the program is to be a part of the child's typical week, for the child has to be considered a participant in the regular early childhood environment for indicator 6 purposes. A typical week is what the child does consistently and across weeks during the school year. This does not include weekend time. I will further define a typical week later in this webinar. To determine if the child attends a regular early childhood program, first ask the family to list and describe programs the child attends outside of school. When considering whether or not the child attends a regular early childhood program, you must also count the time the child spends in selected settings outside of his or her school day. Environments can include public or private preschool classes, licensed child care centers, VPI, Head Start, and before and after school programs. Exclude the time spent with babysitters, neighbors, relatives, or at home. Once you've determined any regular early childhood programs the parents are providing, next, identify the programs the child attends provided by the LEA. Here is an example. If a child attends a special education classroom at the local elementary school in the morning and attends a licensed daycare in the afternoon, that time in the licensed daycare may count as time in a regular early childhood program, as long as 50% or more of the children in the licensed daycare program do not have an IEP. It is important to note, to be considered a participant in a regular early childhood program, the child must be attending. I will define attending in the next slide. Let's define attending. The child is considered to be attending if she is a member of the program. This means there is intentional teaching, either direct or embedded instruction, and promotion of the child's interaction with children without disabilities. If the child meets this definition, he will be considered as attending a regular early childhood program. Additionally, a child simply being in the same place with a group of children without IEPs does not count as spending time in a regular early childhood program. Let's look at an example. A child attends a special education classroom in the mornings and also attends a child care program in the afternoon. The child care program has a curriculum and provides intentional instruction. In this example, the child is attending. Here's a non-example. A child attends a special education classroom in the mornings. The child attends an after-school program each afternoon. The after-school program does not have a curriculum and does not provide instruction. In this example, the child is not attending a regular early childhood program. As I've mentioned, to be considered attending a regular early childhood program, the child must do so during a typical week. A typical week is what the child does consistently across weeks during the school year. This excludes weekend time. Let's look at an example. A child may attend a community-based licensed childcare every Monday in the afternoon. This is considered typical. Here's a non-example. The child only occasionally goes to childcare when mom works late. This would not count as typical. A week is considered for preschool children because the child may not have the same schedule each day. For example, a child may attend childcare 3 days a week and not daily. Let's now look at some examples and determine whether the examples qualify as attending a regular early childhood program. Answer true if the child is attending and false if he or she is not attending. A child spends the first 12 hours each day in the VPI preschool class and participates in morning circle and small group instruction. True. A child spends time with grandma after school with her brother who is a year older. That is false. A child and her preschool class are on the playground with a kindergarten class. False. A child attends a preschool program every Tuesday. The preschool has a curriculum. True. A child goes to childcare after school on occasion when dad has to work late. False. Now that we've defined a regular early childhood program, I will now define a special education program. A special education program is a program that includes more than 50% children with IEPs. A special education classroom is defined as having less than 50% children without IEPs. In other words, the majority of the children in the classroom are children with disabilities. It is operated by the local school district and can include, but is not limited to, special education classrooms in regular school buildings, trailers, or portables outside regular school buildings. It can also include hospital settings or other community-based settings. A separate school is a school designed specifically for students with disabilities in either a public or private day school. A residential facility is a program in a public or privately operated residential school or residential medical facility where the student stays on an inpatient basis. Another possible preschool environment is the home. Home is defined as a principal residence of the child's family or caregivers. The term caregivers includes babysitters. Service provider locations or other locations not in any other category are defined as receiving special education and or related services in a therapist or clinician's office in a public school, private therapist or clinician's office, hospitals, facilities in an outpatient basis, libraries, and other public locations. This concludes the second webinar in the series. The terminology for indicator 6 is important to understand so data can be reported accurately. For more information on indicator 6, please view the other webinars in this series.